there were a lot of men who would bully me in school, which is
okay.
good. I'm glad I was
boys, I
bullied.
guess,
Yeah. I always say, like, I'm glad I was bullied and fat shamed in school because it was, like, the best way to build me to understand I had a problem.
How did guys bully you?
They were just like, oh, you're fat, you're ugly. They just shouted in the hallways. And I'm like, I look back and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you guys did that. You guys are like, you guys helped me see the truth.
Men will tell the truth.
I know, and they will, and I'm
Sometimes,
glad, and I'm so glad there. And when I say that, people are like, "That's crazy! Like, how could you be a stand for that?" I'm like, I'm a stand for the truth. They told me the truth. Bullies telling me the truth, that's a good thing, and it built me up to realize I had an issue.
They say that we have the ones who have a perception problem, that we hate ourselves because we want to have a certain body type that has, less impact on our joints and that is considered healthy within a range. The BMI isn't even true anymore. And I think it is a smaller population, but I do think people are using this as an excuse to avoid getting healthy and dealing with the difficult thing.
Yeah.
Which is, reclaiming your health. And it doesn't take long, but there is a period where it's a little rocky.
A lot of it is cope and projection. I think that when people give you, I don't know all the types of criticism that you both deal with doing what you do online, but I know that it has nothing to do with you. That's the reality of it. When people get mad at that kind of stuff, or they start being nasty and they start leaving sort of type of comments, they're just telling on themselves. Mm-hmm. It's not, I get asked a lot, oh, Zuby, how do you deal with hate on the internet or criticism or this or this or this? I'm like, most of it, 90% of it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
There's just people who are out there, it could be men or women, they're angry, they're disgruntled, they're not happy with who they are and what they're achieving or what they're not achieving or their whole situation. I can't psychoanalyze all the billions of people in the world. And then you just become the target for whatever stuff that they're not dealing with. So you're kind of holding up a mirror. I think particularly with your weight loss, if you improve and there's a before or after, especially if it's something that's visual and people can just see it, then it's holding up a mirror to everyone else. Because if the whole psyop is, hey, there's nothing that can really be done about obesity, and if you're overweight, like it's just how you are, it's your genetics, it's the chemicals in the food, it's this, it's whatever, it's anything but you and your lifestyle and your choices. And then someone is like, oh, hey, I was like this, and this is me now. It just blows up that entire narrative. Because it shows people, oh, actually, if I took personal responsibility and accountability and I did clean up my diet and I did exercise regularly and I did do all those things I probably already know that I'm supposed to be doing, I could actually cure this so-called disease.
Yeah.
It's this isn't like something. This isn't like a cancer or a cold or a flu or something that just happens to you. It's a process due to choices, and it can be reversed due to choices. We've already said there's things that make it more difficult, for sure. But we all, look, even if you just look at the microcosm of the USA. Okay, so USA now, adult obesity rate is somewhere around 40%. But that means 60% of adults are not obese. And it's not a sort of traditionally contagious disease that, you just bump into someone and you catch it. So while I agree with a lot of the statements that are made and the criticisms of the food supply and the advertising and algorithms and this and this and this, I'm like, okay, well, everyone's being exposed to, that's the case for everybody. So if there are people who can be in those environments and shop at those same grocery stores and eat at the same place and do all these same things, yet they're not catching this magical new disease, this tells me that, okay, yeah, there might be some problems in the system. We can acknowledge that, but also it ultimately comes down to you as an individual and what you're going to do. I could sit there all day and complain about all the stuff. I can complain about the chemicals. I can also just make better choices. Because one crazy thing in the States is, I've been to the grocery stores here. They're huge, and all the options are available. You can buy the most unhealthy, unnatural, chemically altered garbage, but you can also, in the same store, sometimes in the same aisle, you can also find, oh wow, there's fruits and vegetables and meat and rice and potatoes and all these type of things. And I'm sure maybe you guys do this too. when you go shopping, do you look at what's in people's carts?
All the time.
Look
I
at what
find
they
it
look like?
fascinating. I study it. I love doing
given,
that.
yeah.
But I almost feel like it is their fault. It's a responsibility, but it may not be their fault because they weren't taught by their parents. I think the breakdown of the family unit is a big culprit in this equation. Without a father in the house, with two parents who are working, like the parents didn't really teach kids how to cook. And then home economics now is considered, not okay, right? So there isn't home economics in school anymore to teach you how to sew and cook. And so your doctor doesn't have time to teach you about lifestyle medicine, which would be food, which they're not educated in, nutrition, and they're not educated in, or they're not, the business model for doctors isn't to help you learn about fitness. And going to a gym may not be possible for everybody. So I feel like the information people are getting is so varied, and they're so overwhelmed now as well at the grocery store, on the internet. Like, how the heck do I lose this weight? They have so many options, and they don't know what works. They don't actually know. I mean, to a certain degree. People have an idea, but that's not fun, and that's why diets don't work. It's not fun. Like, you get bored of eating just salmon and salad every day, or, whatever it is. And I think that it's not their fault, and it's their responsibility.
That's interesting. I'm interested by that statement. I'm being philosophical here. You said you think it's their responsibility, but not necessarily their fault.
Education in this country especially is a huge problem. And I think it's the family's responsibility.
Okay.
But the families, for the most part, aren't really taking ownership of that.
And I'm not trying to press here. I'm just curious. When do you think that excuse or line of thinking expires? Like, at what age?
24, maybe?
24. Okay.
22?
Because I totally agree for children. If you're talking like kids, then yeah, kids are not generally making their own food choices.
Once
they're eating whatever. But with many things, there's an age where, especially in this internet era, where we live in the age of. I mean, when I meet a 30-something-year-old who's like, oh, I don't know how to cook, I'm like, there's no excuse for that.
No.
It's a survival skill.
Like, you can go on YouTube right now.
And learn how to cook.
You can you can learn how to cook today, right?
Yeah.
Okay, if your parents didn't teach you or whatever, I get that. But I'm like, bro, you've had 20 years of being able to learn this